Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I am Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And this is the weekly Jedi Enclave Presents. And now this is Podcasting Podcast featuring your hosts, me and this guy, where we talk about Star Wars and other things that interest, that kind of tickle our, whatever these are.
Balls?
Yeah, balls. This week it's almost all Star Wars. And if we have the chance, we'll talk about Dune Prophecy, because Dune Prophecy is on fire right now too. But there's Star Wars happening, so we got to talk about it.
The fucking Star Wars siren is shrieking. Yeah, right. The alarm is going off.
We rode the poles down here, like Batman and Robin. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, did you ever notice that? Did you ever watch the '60s Batman?
Not very much.
So first of all, I'm obsessed with Batman, and I'll show you some things here in a second. But in the '60s Batman, they would get a call on their red telephone that they need a Batman somewhere, and Bruce Wayne would walk over to a bust of William Shakespeare, and the head would pull back, and there would be a switch, and he'd hit the switch, and then his bookcase would open, and then there'd be two poles that go to the Batcave, but they're each labeled Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. So Bruce Wayne's bat pole or whatever. Not to sound rude, but it's like, if anyone found this, you'd be immediately found out. Yeah. Like they would know immediately what this is for and who is Batman and which one of you specifically is Batman and Robin. And somehow there's some kind of
60s.
It was. And the whole thing was supposed to be a screwball comedy and everything. And it does that very well. There's always this magic involved where they would slide down the pole and they would start at the top of the pole in the mansion as Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. And when they cut to the Batcave at the bottom of the pole, they would just have their suits on. So somewhere between the top and the bottom of the pole, they would just somehow change into their costumes. Yeah. No one ever understood why. Which, by the way, today's my birthday. Now, I'm not trying to get anyone to say happy birthday.
But definitely say happy birthday, Daniel.
If you want to, that's fine. I brought it up because I got some really cool birthday gifts.
Okay.
And hopefully this shows up on camera pretty well. The first is this replica
of Michael Keaton's
Batman
cowl.
1989 cowl. Well, let me pull up
the rubber one where he couldn't turn his head and you have to rip off half of it to confess his love to Catwoman at the end.
That was in Batman Returns, but yes.
Yeah.
I'll hold that up there. That way you can see it. Which, by the way, I don't know where I'm going to put this shit. Speaking of which, you know that Michael Keaton's Batman was featured heavily in The Flash.
Yes.
And
which was a terrible movie. And Michael Keaton was probably the best part.
And the costume designers are like, technology has advanced a lot since the 80s and early 90s.
We don't have to make this out of rubber. You can turn your head.
Yeah, they're like, we can make you a cowl where you can turn your head. And he was like, don't you dare. Because he a big part of his character in the movement that he put into it was the body turn. Yeah. And it was just a whole part of how he played the character, and
it would have fucked with his mojo.
Yeah. Motherfucker, I'm too old to bend like this. Ask me how old I am.
How old are you?
I have no idea because I stopped counting after 35. I know I'm not 40 yet.
Okay,
but I might be getting close.
Closer than you'd like, certainly.
I don't care if I turn 40. Nothing I can do to stop. The other is this Batmobile, Batman. Die-cast fucking thing.
Turbines to power, engines to speed.
Atomic batteries to power,
there you go.
Turbines to speed.
Sorry.
You fucking Philistine. I know that because that's what my dad and I we would get into his fucking, I don't know, 1980 something Dodge Ram Charger that he had these big fucking tires on because he was in the fire department, had a light bar on top. It was really cool. Yeah. We jump into that thing and he would say atomic batteries to power and I would say turbines to speed. And then he would say, let's roll out, which is exactly what Batman said. Yeah. Anyway, so those were my birthday gifts. I expect that Christmas will have lots of Star Wars, and that's usually how we do it. Yeah. So this week, I think we're just going to jump right into this because we're not doing any games tonight after this. In fact, you and I are going to finish watching the miniseries premiere of Battlestar Galactica, which premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel 100 years ago or something. But this is a part of my like good shows that I enjoy that like you must watch, that you specifically must watch.
Okay.
And so, in fact,
let's see. There was.
I have a Viper around here somewhere.
Oh.
John redesigned my shelves here, so he might have actually moved it somewhere. But I built one of those like Mark II Vipers.
But yeah, as you pointed out, Battlestar Galactica features Bo-Katan.
Oh yes, Katie Helfer, Trisha Helfer,
Katie Sackhoff.
Wait, yes,
I'm right.
No, you are. But now I'm wondering who is.
Well, you have IMDb right there.
I'm gonna hold on a second because now
it's bothering you.
Who am I thinking of? That you're right. It's obviously Katie Sackhoff, but Battlestar Helfer. Oh, the Cylon woman.
Oh yeah,
right.
The red dress guy.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Not that they're both blonde and pretty, and that's why I confuse them because I'm a gay man and female faces all blend together.
Anyway, let's talk about a children's show.
So
a children's show. I can't get into that because that's technically a spoiler yet. So
let's do spoiler free first.
Okay.
You go first. And
my very first comment about this in our Discord server, which you should join, by the way.
Oh,
was
speaking of which, you ripped the words right out of my mouth. Join us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. The link to which is in the description. If you can't pay for Disney Plus, or if you like sticking it to Disney and you want to be able to watch the Star Wars, The Goonies in space without like an ad-free experience, someone has been posting the episodes on our Discord, and I try to delete them as fast as I can, but sometimes I don't get around to it fast enough. I don't know who it is. I'm very sorry. You might be able to catch it before it's deleted. If you see it, tell me so I can delete it, because that is obviously a copyright infringement and would hurt that poor old corporation, and I would hate to do that. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, they like hit exactly the 80s 90s suburban hellscape aesthetic.
Yeah, there's so like, have you ever seen Poltergeist?
I don't think so.
There's this whole thing on New Rockstars that Eric Voss posited this week about how like the whole like 80s 90s suburbia thing is like a villain in a lot of like period like 80s and 90s things like E.T. and Poltergeist and stuff like that.
Because the suburbs suck.
Yeah, they're
like American post-war urban design sucks.
It really does. And it was also made with the understanding that only white people would live there. I wish I was lying about things like that, but I'm not. But yeah, also the first time we ever see a suburban Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, this whole thing, this links up with that, is a clear love letter to Spielberg and Amblin Pictures.
Yeah.
There's so much E.T. and the Goonies in the first two episodes that it's like, I see what you're doing here. And some of it is so obvious and so on the nose, but I think purposefully so, that the whole time I had a nostalgia smile.
Yeah.
Watching the whole thing.
Like, this is ostensibly a show for kids.
Yeah.
But it's really aimed at people like you and me.
We're right. I think we are the demographic, but it's, they're like, well, this generation has kids now, so we need to make sure we get everyone involved.
Yeah.
And like there are just some small things in this show so far where I'm just like, all right, this takes me back a little bit. This is a lot of fun.
They found really good children actors.
Yes, they're all good.
Yeah, like the core cast is fantastic, which is not something you can usually say about child actors.
It's hard to do because, like child actors, it's usually like a crapshoot because, like they pick the ones that are photogenic, but like
they can't always act,
right? Or they have like they think that they have someone who acts very well but isn't very photogenic, and so it's like the whole thing and. I don't
know if it's just that child actors in the last 10, 12 years have gotten way better, or if it's Disney and they have like the ability to be really selective about who they pick. But like this cast, little Leia from Obi-Wan was really good.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, I like all the cast, and I think Wim so far is my favorite character. He's one of the kids from Encanto.
Okay.
And I think that might be me when I was that age.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And even the like there's a bit at the beginning where his dad yells at him not to forget his jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And he turns back because he clearly forgot it.
I didn't
forget it. Yeah, which is exactly something I would have said when I was that age. That like, fuck you, I didn't forget it.
My favorite character is Fern.
I like Fern a lot. Yeah,
she's just got that that bluster about her.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, she talks tough.
She talks tough. She's probably the not organized exactly, but like
I would bet you that Fern thinks that she's the leader.
Yeah.
Even though Wim very much wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like KB.
KB, yeah.
Who
she's fantastic.
Anytime she needs to put a barrier between her and the world, she puts down her visor. She's like, fuck you, I have a visor. What do you have? And I think
it's weird because like she's a 10-year-old cyborg.
Yeah.
And I really hope they never explain that.
Explain why.
Yeah, like don't give her some tragic backstory about how like she has this brain
got into an accident or something.
Don't give me any of that. Just let her be a 10-year-old cyborg with no explanation.
Yeah, she was like, Mom and Dad, can I have a Lobot? And they're like, sure.
Absolutely, sure.
Why the fuck not?
And they just put a computer in her head.
Well, as we know, there's some weird shit happening with this planet anyway.
Yeah. So
it might be something connected to that.
Who knows?
And I think everybody loves Neil.
Yeah.
He's hilarious and I love him. And
Little elephant kid.
Yeah, he's great. And like I said, I predicted when we saw the first trailer for this that the main character Wim was going to have some kind of, if you're following the Spielberg like template, that he was going to have some kind of problem in his life, like his parents. I think I said at the time that like his parents are probably getting a divorce or something, and that is true. In a certain sense,
home life is not the best.
Yeah, his father is a little neglectful. He's very busy. He works, and so he's kind of left to fend for himself, and has this huge imagination and doesn't fit in with what they need him to do there. And there's a part of that really like it identifies with me, like kind of how I was when I was a kid, and so like seeing that, sometimes you feel seen and shit. And you're like, yeah, I was that weird kid that had the one friend and we pretend to sword fight.
Yeah.
Like, that was me as a kid. Which means I think my friend Joe is probably Neil.
Yeah.
Except he wasn't as smart as Neil. Like Neil's really smart.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, average.
Yeah.
Joe's gonna be watching this like, well,
you motherfucker.
Dear Daniel.
Go fuck yourself.
By the way, this is directed by John Watts, the guy that did all of the Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and you can tell it is very high quality. But let's get into some spoilers unless you have anything else.
No, I think that was it. So this children's show begins with a violent pirate takeover of an innocent merchant ship.
Well, actually, first of all, it starts another Star Wars series. It starts with the blue text on Starfield background.
Yeah.
Which I think is a thing that, because they did it in Ahsoka. I think it was red text. They did the same thing with Acolyte, and so this just might be a thing that they're doing now. But yeah, it's actually very reminiscent of the Star Wars Episode 4.
Yeah, I got huge vibes of that.
Yeah. So just like if you were to go and watch Pirates of the Caribbean, when like they pull up to a ship and they throw the ropes over to claw onto it and shit. They've got those in space.
Yep.
Which are
tubes that
extending pokey claw things.
Yep, they poke into the ship and open up and the pirates come out.
Yeah. And so it's a freighter and a pirate ship pretty much. And like all the guys on the freighter all get set up just like the rebels do in episode 4. And they got their blasters out and then they hear the sound. And they're like, what the fuck is that? And pirates.
And the tubes open up and the pirates come out and everyone starts shooting.
There's a Gran that takes a laser bolt straight to the eyeball right out of the door.
Yeah.
And I like how he's like, pirate shit. Yeah. And he just keeps going. Yeah. And they cut down a lot of these dudes. And they take control of the ship and enter Wolf Guy. I can't remember what his name is now.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. Who I remember there were production photos of this guy a few months ago, and he's got the bandolier with the 8 or 9 million pistols on it or whatever. So he comes out to make sure everything is all right. And then he calls to the captain, everything is all right. You can come out now. And so the captain, who is supposed to be at the moment a helmeted unknown, who we know is Jude Law, right? Like,
okay,
you didn't.
I did not make that connection, but okay,
well,
sure.
It's a theory, but I'm pretty sure it's just Jude Law. Okay. I think that's how this ends up, is how he ends up in jail.
God, that's really going to ruin that reveal if you turn out to be right.
I thought that it was kind of obvious.
It wasn't to me.
Oh, well, maybe you're just like Joe and you're of average intelligence. I'm so sorry, Joe, if you're watching this. I'm not trying to shit on you.
Anyway, so definitely not Jude Law walks on down to the ship's vault where the captain is. And he's like, hey, captain, why don't you open this vault for us? And the captain's like, well, no, I don't really want to. There's nothing important in there. Like, and definitely not Jude Law is like, no, you're going to open this goddamn vault.
They do the episode 4 thing again, where he's like, oh, I don't know what you want. This is just a fucking banana ship.
Yeah.
And he's like, if it was a banana ship, why is your,
why is your vault magnetically sealed?
Which is a callback to if this is a consular ship, where's your ambassador?
Yeah.
And the dude's like, it's a pretty good point, but you're going to have to kill me anyway. And he's like, okay.
Fine, throw him out the airlock, bring out the fucking cutting torches and just cut through this door. And definitely not Jude Law is grandstanding, telling his crew, this time we really scored the big one. Look. We got enough for us to all to retire.
Yeah.
And
I like how he's like, I know that if this ended up being a bad score, you guys would probably mutiny. Thank God this isn't a bad score, and we're going to open this door, and there's going to be so much fucking money. By the way, two characters of note on the crew so far: Vane, who is the Nikto guy from Mandalorian season 3, who is hanging out with pirate Oscar the Grouch guy, the green guy.
Okay.
He escapes from that little battle in Navarro. And then Gunter, who is played by Jaleel White, who is Urkel in Family Matters, the guy with the Lobot thing and So anyway, they cut into it. He
kicks the door down.
By the way, no way he's kicking a door that thick in. Even if they cut it, that thing looks real fucking big. Yeah. Nothing in this vault.
There is one single credit.
Yeah. This also was very this took me back a little bit to Dark Knight, where they raid the banks and they find like the one stack of irradiated like money or whatever.
The bat money.
Yeah. And so he just remembering, he's like, oh shit, I just said that if this is a bad score. And like one of his guys like puts a hand on his shoulder.
Yeah. The wolf guy's like, all our buddies died for this one fucking credit.
Yeah.
And definitely not Jude Law is like, so it's a mutiny then.
Yeah.
And he just starts swinging.
Yeah. Immediate mutiny. Yeah. They turn on him so fucking fast.
And we cut away from that.
Yep. And we go to Star Wars Suburbia, which did we know it existed? Not before the trailer of the show. And you know what? We've seen so many different locales in Star Wars that we've seen the bustling metropolis of Coruscant. Mm-hmm. We've seen the backwater, lots of backwater places in
Tatooine,
that
bunch of other places.
That one planet where Mando hangs out in season 1 and helps him defend against an AT-ST.
We've even seen the mighty redwood forests of the forest moon of Endor.
Yeah, right. It would make sense to me that somewhere in Star Wars there's a suburban hellscape of Karens, pretty much, right? And that's where we are on Aten, which is a planet. I think so. They're setting up a couple of different mysteries, and this planet is one of them, and it's very weird.
Yeah.
And it connects to our weekly tabletop RPG in a really weird way.
Okay.
And I know that our DM could not have known about this because he didn't have access to the show before anyone else did. Anyway, we open on Whim.
Little playing kid with his bedroom, playing with his Jedi and Sith toys.
Probably these hand painted, toys. Yeah. He's got a whole fucking thing in his head. Mm-hmm. He's got this whole conflict and he's doing the thing. It's very Elliot from E.T.
I mean, it's exactly what every kid that age does with their action figures, right?
Yeah. And so he has to go to school. He goes down for breakfast. Yep. He's got a little jug of
blue milk,
kind of murky blue milk, and some cereal,
sugary cereal, and
his dad's like, well, I'm going to be late again tonight. So
I have to work, 24/7 for the next 3 weeks. So here's your fucking lunch money.
the whole week's worth of lunch money, by the way. You should not give that amount of money to a kid all at once. That's fucking stupid. You're a bad parent. Where's Wim's mother?
This guy is a really bad parent in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, not purposefully. I don't think there are a lot of bad parents that aren't purposefully bad parents, but he is trying to work and and he wants what's best for his kid. I don't think he understands his kid very much. But where is Wim's mother? We don't know. We have no idea. All we know is that she used to read bedtime stories to him, and that's about it.
Dead or divorced or something.
Right. So he gives Wim lunch money, and so he goes out to the bus stop. Mm-hmm. And I swear to God, this is one of those moments where I just had to smile because there's a performance thing that this kid does where he walks up to the bus stop and he sees Neil with his back turned. And even though no one's looking at him, he does a little performance for himself where he freezes and he looks all worried. Mm-hmm. And then Neil turns around slowly and says, "You shouldn't have come here." And they both draw their fake lightsabers.
Which I think are just flashlights or something.
Right. Well, I think Wim's got this little thing that he built. I don't think Neil has anything at all. I think he's just holding his fists together. And they have a little sword fight, and it is so fucking adorable because this is the shit that I used to do with my friends when I was a kid. And
you find a cool looking stick, you bash it against your friend's cool looking stick.
Yeah, and it's great. And I like how there's like a whole group of kids across the street who are like watching them, like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?
What are you doing? You're so weird."
And so we meet Neil for the first time, who, by the way, is not in Ortolan, who is the alien race that Max Rebo is. Mm-hmm. They're not the same.
Yeah, he's just a space elephant.
Yeah, space blue guy elephant with a trunk. Doesn't speak out of his trunk, as we've discovered. Yeah, he has a mouth that's CG, and it doesn't look that bad.
It's fine.
Yeah,
never took me out of it.
I think his trunk is CG as well, but the rest of it's like a bodysuit. Which is good because it captures the performance of the kid that does that part, which I think is great. So they get on their bus, which is piloted by
a droid
that is from Star Tours from Disney World.
Oh, okay.
So if you've ever gone on the Star Tours ride, you know what this droid is, which I think is. He also shows up in Rebels, I think, like that class of droid.
Okay. I like how he has a whole bunch of bubble gum stuck on the back of his head.
They keep sticking out there.
All the kids just get on, just stick their gum on the back of his head. It's like, what the fuck? Knock it off.
So Neil cannot stop talking about his nerdy math shit. And Wim is like, "Fuck you, I'm going to read my story pad," which he's got apparently this story about a Jedi and a Sith on it, which is really cool. Actually, the visuals of it is really neat. Yeah, because it's like when he turns the page, there's like an animation, and it's really
cool. Flips this giant switch, and it just does this mechanical stuff.
It looks kind of like a Magic 8-Ball, like how that the thing you read on a Magic 8-Ball kind of disappears and comes back. It looks kind of like that, yeah. And he, Wim's like, "This is why girls don't like you, Neil." He just constantly talking about math, and no one cares.
Speaking of, Wim happens to look out the window, and see a pair of girls go speeding by on their fucking
Fern and KB.
Yep,
on their speeder bike
with a sidecar.
Okay, with as fast as this motherfucker is able to go, this cannot be legal for children to ride it, right? Because it's like she's on a motorcycle. Yeah. Like that thing is going fast, right? So yeah. Anyway, and Neil just will not shut the fuck up about his tables or whatever the fuck. So
they get to school.
Oh god, this school looks
they go walking in. Wim happens to see Fern and KB getting yelled at.
They're getting accosted by the truancy droids,
the speed
or
police or whatever.
Right. This school looks like a specially designed hell for children like me who cannot pay attention to a straight lecture where someone at the front just talks the whole time. I can follow along for about 3 minutes and then I'm fucking somewhere else and I just cannot do it, right? I'd much rather read something by myself than to learn like that. And Wim, who has like this Etch-a-Sketch style,
as desk. He's drawing a fucking Jedi.
He's got his Jedi and shit, and some lady comes up behind him.
He's like, "Hey,
He's like, what's your fucking John? He's like, who the fuck are you? My teacher? Are you my boss? Are you my mom? I don't know who you
and the
are.
droid's like, speaking of which, have you met this lady? She's some high muckety muck from the government.
Yeah, she's like, we have a special guest. Come up here. And she's like, I'm Undersecretary Karen. I'm sure she has a real name. Can't remember what it is.
Tomorrow, you're all going to take the standardized test that's going to determine the fate of the entire rest of your lives.
Which, by the way, Wim thought that was later than tomorrow. Because he looks over at Neil, because Neil's like,
you didn't know this?
Yeah, Neil's excited because he gets to talk about his tables to someone who fucking cares.
And Wim was like, what the fuck? You weren't going to tell me?
Wim's like, oh no.
I haven't studied in months. What am I going to
do? She goes on about she gives them a pep talk about how they're all going to be drones in the workforce, which she refers to as the great work.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? What are they doing? And why is it so weird on this planet? I would like to know. So Wim's like, well, I guess I'm fucked because there's no way in one night I'm going to study enough to pass.
There's a nice little exchange where this lady's going around the room asking kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow? What do you want to be? And she gets to Wim and Wim's like, well, like, I guess I just kind of want to help people.
Yeah, he's basically like, I want to be a Jedi.
And outside of class, Neil's like, I can't believe you told her you want to be a Jedi.
Wim, you have to stop telling people you want to be a Jedi.
He's like, I didn't say that. He's like, you basically said
You said it. You said it without saying it.
Yeah.
That paired with our lightsaber fight. I have a feeling that Neil is into the Jedi stuff just because Wim is so into it and he wants to be a good friend, which, by the way, what a great friend.
Good for Neil.
Yeah, but he's like, the Jedi shit's stupid, Wim. It's embarrassing. You need to grow the fuck up. Oh, I had friends like that too. Okay, so they all go home. Fern and KB ride their bike to a garage. Wim and Neil ride the bus home, and we get a look at Neil's family, which is adorable.
He has like 5 siblings.
Those parents, fuck, like they've got so many.
Those
kids.
elephants got busy.
Yes, and Wim looks on longingly because both of his parents are together. He has siblings and all this other shit. His parents are home when he gets home, and Wim gets home and there's no one there, and he does the very relatable face plant straight into the couch right when he walks in.
So Fern and KB are hanging out after school trying to fix up in
their parents' garage.
Yeah, I guess. And these other 13-year-olds come by on their bike. Goes, your bike's fucking broken. You guys fucking suck. See you at the race.
They call them blastoids, which I guess is a reference to something. I can't remember what exactly. But
I don't know.
It might be Breakfast Club, actually. Okay. Yeah, I think it might be Breakfast Club.
At multiple points in the show, Wim calls things wizard, which is just...
It's adorable.
I want somebody to turn and say, dude, nobody says wizard anymore.
Well,
what the hell?
He says that while he's chatting up Fern, I think, before he realizes she's competition. Yeah. And he's trying to be all cool and shit. And he's like, oh, it's so fucking wizard. And you know that like after he figures out that he doesn't like her very much, he's going to be like, wasn't wizard. I was lying.
So Fern goes back to her own home and the maid droid's like, oh, Fern, you just got here. It's so exciting. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. They do this whole thing where she's like, okay, listen, and stitches get stitches. Remember this. I was here studying upstairs the whole time.
And May's like, no, you weren't. And she's like, okay, override your memory.
Yeah.
I was here studying the entire time. I don't care that you're a sentient being. You're going to do what I say.
And I'll repeat. Snitches get stitches.
Major's like, yes, you were upstairs studying the whole time.
I remember now. You were upstairs studying the whole time.
So she starts going upstairs. Her mom was like, hey, Fern.
And she's like, oh no, Undersecretary Karen's my mom.
Fuck.
She still has her jacket on, by the way, from clearly having just been outside. Yeah. And she was like, I was upstairs studying. And the droid's like, she was upstairs studying. And she's like, all right.
And I was like, okay, look, I'm so glad that you're top of the class, that you've always been top of the class, and that you're always going to be top of the class, because if you don't pass this fucking test tomorrow, your life is over.
You're dead to me.
Fern's like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Mom.
I like how they get a little badge when they're top of the class. Yeah. And you can tell, I think this comes from a good place, at least, where she's like, look, there are only so many spots at the very tippy top where Undersecretary Karen is. Mm-hmm. And I would like you to be up there and not wherever the fuck Wim ends up.
Like, it comes from a good place, but
she's the worst possible parent,
The system of this entire planet is so unbelievably fucked up.
Yeah.
That
everything is so weird. Okay, so Wim tries to study for his test, right? he gets bored within the first 3 minutes.
Yes.
Pulls out his Jedi stories and was like, I'd much rather do this.
Yes.
And then falls asleep. And the camera pans up out of his room to the sky, and there's this weird like aurora effect happening with a grid of red lights, and you can't see any stars. And it's weird as fuck.
Yeah.
And the next morning, the bus is taking off, and Wim overslept.
Yes.
And it's the way they shoot it, because it's actually very Spider-Man. Like there are scenes like this in John Watts' Spider-Man. And like Neil is looking out the back window, and Wim's like full arm windmill, like trying to catch up. Yeah. And he's like, hold on, I know a shortcut. I'm gonna go get my motorcycle.
Yeah. So he jumps on his motorcycle, goes driving through the woods, inevitably crashes.
Which, by the way, this the whole ride through the woods was the Endor speeder bike gag
with
trying to avoid trees and shit,
with fantastic music, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one of the things. There are a couple of things, a couple of things musically in the show that I really like. The rest of it to me is nondescript.
Okay.
Like nothing.
Fair enough.
And I also haven't seen the rest of the show yet. So like music, it's one of those things where like you don't judge it all the way, especially for a show. You don't judge it all the way like until you like hear all of it. And there, like I said, there were a couple of themes and moments that I really liked. The music was done by Michael Giacchino's son, Mick.
Maybe
I think it's Mick. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've soured a little bit on Michael Giacchino over the last few years because everything just started to sound like Lost.
Okay.
And I'm trying not to let that color the nepotism happening with this, right? So I'm going to give it a fair shake. I'm going to wait until the end of the show, and then we'll talk about the music probably.
So Wim inevitably crashes his motorcycle because
of course he does. Yeah.
He goes skittering down the hill into this ravine and sees this weird looking hatch underneath some grass. And he's like, hey, what the fuck is that?
Another Lost moment, by the way. Lost fans out there, you know what I'm talking about.
And then the truancy drawer is like, hey, the fuck you doing?
Yeah. Levels a blaster. You were a truant.
Get your ass to class.
I like how he's like, hey, go to class. And he's like, how the fuck do I do that?
So Wim has missed the standardized test that determines his entire
Neil
future.
caught it, by the way. And I like how so there's a conversation before this where Neil was like, okay, so first plan, and we should focus on this the most. You pass the test, and then we get a job together, and we'll be best friends forever.
Yeah.
Backup plan. And again, I would like to emphasize, we focus on plan A. Plan B, I purposely failed the test, and we both just flunked school together.
And we be best friends forever.
Yeah, and it's like, Neil, the universe does not deserve you. Like, what a fucking bro thing to say, right? So they do, though. So he's sitting out waiting for the principal, and they do the worst possible thing, which is they call his parents.
Well, first Fern comes up and sits down.
Yeah.
She's like, what are you in for? He's like, I missed the test.
Yeah.
He's like,
what are you in for?
The droids just don't like
me. Yeah, I'm a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
People generally don't like me.
Because I ride my bike everywhere and probably buy cigarettes on the weekends.
Yes. And as you will soon find out, I'm a little irritating. People generally don't like me.
She's like, yeah, the last kids that missed the standardized test got locked up in the mines under the school. And he's like,
and Wim is just young enough where he kind of buys it. Yeah. And he has such an overactive imagination. You can see him immediately imagining mines under where they are. He's like, oh shit, I didn't think about the mines.
Oh no, the mines.
So
they call his parents.
Yeah, his dad.
His dad comes in and is like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
You knew this test was important. What the hell?
I literally put all of the pressure on you last night to do well, and you crumpled quite predictably crumpled under the pressure, because no child that old should have that amount of pressure on them.
Also, and I really want to stress this, I left work to come here.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the most important project of my entire fucking life, I had to come down here because you missed your fucking test.
Right. So good news. You can retake the test tomorrow. The bad news is that you start off with a 50-point penalty. Therefore, to even pass the test, you must get every question correct, which at that point you got to wonder, Dad, what the fuck is the point? Like, do you really think he's going to get a perfect, like a kid like that probably doesn't take tests very well.
No.
Yeah.
No, this kid is screwed.
That's the one thing that probably women I don't have in common, which is I actually did really well in tests when I was a kid. I was not very good at turning in homework. That was the thing that really killed me. So for some reason
So
I think he goes back to work, right?
Yeah, he goes back to work. Wim goes over to Neil's house and is like, "Hey, Neil, your dad still has those power tools, right?"
So first of all, I love how a couple of things from this scene. Mm-hmm. First of all, the Star Wars holiday special has been made canon because all the children in Neil's house are watching the weird holographic juggler. Yeah, whatever the fuck that is from the holiday celebration, and it's got the same weird carnival music. It's like the stuff of nightmares, and those kids are watching it like it's their favorite fucking show. And for some reason, they built a skylight right over their bathtub, and Neil is butt ass naked in
just taking a fucking bath.
The bubble bath of the fucking century, by the way. This huge fucking tub with all these suds and shit, and he's like in there having the time of his life, and like Wim's like looking over the window like, "Hey, get the fuck out of the tub." Where are your power tools? And he's like, this conversation has been an emotional roller coaster from when you started talking to now. So what is happening?
So they grab the tools out of Neil's dad's shed and they take their bikes, which, by the way, these fucking motorcycles have the little handlebar tassels, which is just my favorite part of it all. Like,
if they really wanted to cater to our generation, they would have put the pegs on the back. Mm-hmm, like, you know how we put pegs on our back wheels where like our friends could stand on them and shit? It's mostly just for wrecking your shins on, really. Yeah.
So they go out in the woods.
Well, hold on a second. I think we find out before this, too, because he kind of slips to Fern while he's waiting for the principal.
I found this Jedi temple in the woods.
He's convinced he's found a Jedi temple. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because he's been reading all these stories, right? Mm-hmm. And Fern...
he just found this hatch that...
Yeah. And the second he mentions it, Fern's like, wait, what?
I think you're full of shit. Yeah, you might be onto something.
Right, because you can tell she's like, well, it's obviously not a Jedi temple, you fucking moron. Yeah. But it might be something useful to me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they grab some tools. They go and find the hatch. Mm-hmm. And
they're about to start digging it out when all of a sudden they hear this big robot voice saying, "Hey!
Yeah.
Fucking stop what you're doing and tell me who you have a crush on."
Yeah. First of all, hilarious. Second of all, and this is not at all important to the story, but something I found hilarious. On the way there, they designated their walkie call signs, which are Jedi 1 and Jedi 2.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Neil's like, fuck with the Jedi shit again. But he's like, well, he really likes Jedi, so I'll be Jedi 2.
Yep.
And I'm just saying...
He is the broest bro who ever broed.
I also, another detail we have to stop and go back and examine just for a moment is in class, when they're asking everyone what they want to be when they grow up, his crush says that she wants to do something he really thinks is like really hot. Mm-hmm. And he has the hand on his, and he's looking at her, and it's adorable. And he's got a big Rona, I think Runa or
something like that.
Yeah. I thought it was really funny. So, tell me who your crush is. They're both like, what the fuck is that? And
no, Wim is like, what the fuck is that? Neil is like, Ruda.
Yeah, where this girl is. It turns out it's just Katie. She's like using a voice changer, and she's like, sorry, Fern made me do it. And
a voice changer that's just in her head, right? Like built into it.
So they all have a conversation around the hatch, and they argue about the legality of foundsies.
Yes. Who does this belong to?
And it's like right after this, they'll be probably discussing cooties and how to inoculate yourself against cooties. Mm-hmm. But
circle, ...
Yes. And they have this whole rule about like you claim foundsies, but
you can't claim unfoundsies unless the person who claimed foundsies was there, and then just
the whole it's this intricate thing.
It's the 10-year-old legal system, which makes absolutely no sense.
And somehow more sense than ours sometimes.
Finally, Fern is like, all right, look. This is clearly mine, whatever the fuck this is. Yeah. So you can dig, and like we'll let you look inside if you just help us dig it out. And
I like how she, like a master, manipulates them into digging, where she's like, "Oh no, I get it. You guys probably aren't strong enough." And Neil is like,
"I'm hella."
Why? Maybe I am.
Wim is like, "No, I'm hella strong enough."
And Wim, who cannot be told what not to do ever. it was like, fuck you, I'm digging this fucking hatch out.
And so the boys dig it out, and the girls just sit there watching, like,
Yep.
these fucking
idiots.
dumbasses.
Which, by the way, Wim is like, I've got this brilliant idea. Fucking, she can have Foundsies on the outside, but when we get inside, we'll immediately call Foundsies on the inside. Fucking brilliant, right? And Neil's like, dude, you're a fucking genius. While the girls are like, look at these idiots fucking digging this hatch out.
Yeah. So eventually, like, KB sees something. She's like, hey, quit digging for a second. I'm going to plug my head into it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I can just open this hatch.
My head cord.
Yeah.
It makes like the USB sound, like boo-doo. But then it opens, and they're like, oh, well, I guess we're going in here.
There you go.
Weird, dark, scary hole.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah. And like Fern is telling the story about how, you know, this is the sewer tunnel that's supposed to be under subdivision, and if you put your head right up to it, you can still hear people like screaming and
yeah, right. And she bangs on it with the shovel and shit. Yeah, Fern's kind of an asshole.
A little bit, yeah, but she makes it work.
They get into the hatch, and for a while after this, Wim is still convinced it's a Jedi temple, and he's like, "Don't ask me fucking how it makes sense." Or why
it clearly is.
Right. Don't fuck with my imagination. The door closes because they hit, they find a dead droid.
They find a dead droid and they're like, don't touch it. And like, I think Neil touches it and it like pulls a switch and closes the door.
Right.
And
so new plan, find the power source on and reboot it or whatever.
Turn the power back on. We can open the hatch and get out.
And this is a good task for KB. Because she's got a visor and she knows about things like this. I guess
she's part machine, so she knows machines.
They have a little conversation about whose fault it is that they are locked in the hatch, and everyone, even Neil, agrees that maybe it might be Wim's fault. And Wim, just like I would have been as a kid, was like, "Fuck you guys, I'm going out on my own, doing my own thing," and he just leaves the group, right? And the rest of them go,
"All right, fine. This surely won't come back to haunt us. Let's just go find the power and get out of here."
They find the power. They're able to turn it on right as Wim is finding the cockpit of this ship, and everything turns on and everything, and lots of familiar sounds in this, by the way, like the TIE fighter targeting computer sound, and fucking headset drops from one of the
so he
seats.
Fucking puts that on and pulls out his radio.
There's a blinking green light.
Yes.
And Fern goes, "Do not touch another fucking thing." And you can tell Wim's like, "Fuck you," and just presses the button.
Fern is like, "Don't touch anything." Wim is like, "I wasn't gonna touch anything."
Yeah.
And then he gets off the radio and like he's just looking at that green button.
He's like, I gotta do it. Sorry.
And like the audience, he's gonna push that button.
Of course. And it's, you know what? If she hadn't said anything, he might not have touched it at all.
But you know, who can resist the allure of a blinking green button?
Especially when you have an annoying girl telling you not to do that thing.
Yeah.
You are absolutely
He is absolutely gonna press that fucking button.
It turns out that one blinking green light is the let's launch the ship into orbit button.
Sure. Yeah. It's autopilot or something.
By the way, one of the reasons they run into the hatch is because they hear Wim's father yelling for him. Because like he wants to make sure Wim's studying for the test tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, fuck that guy. And they get it right. So this ship pulls out of the dirt. And there's a whole action sequence where Wim almost falls out of it and shit. And his dad watches like, what is happening? Yeah. And he scrambles into the ship, and the ship just takes off.
Yep.
And Wim's dad is like, "I'm the worst father in the world. Oh no, what do I do?" So
it goes up towards that Aurora.
They break the barrier, capital B barrier.
Yes.
By the way, in the subtitles, and they see stars for the first time.
Like, holy shit!
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Now they know what stars are because I think they've read about them.
Yeah.
But they've never seen them, and they like. I love this shot that they do where the camera pulls away and it's like the camera's like behind the ship and you get the scale of really how many stars there are, and they're just like, what the fuck is this? And something happens and I can't remember what, but they just go into hyperspace.
I think it's still the autopilot or something,
or it just goes off automatically. Right, because they have like a second to enjoy the stars, and then the
hyperspace.
And they're the whole episode ends with them screaming, right?
Yeah.
And the next episode opens with them screaming
Yeah.
on the cockpit.
So like the barrier is like one of the big mysteries. I guess it ties in with some other mysteries that we get in episode 2, but like what is going on with that? Why is this planet like separated from the rest of the galaxy?
Yeah, and since we're already into spoilers, and we'll come back around to this when it happens too, but we find out that most of the people in the universe might not believe that this planet even exists.
Yeah.
And so, or they think it does exist and it's the source of some amazing treasure or something.
It's a legend.
There are some weird things happening.
A lot of weird stuff.
The fact that the entire planet seems to be doing one task, which is converting currencies, I think.
Maybe.
And there's like, there are no outsiders. Like they're all like self-sustained and like they don't see travelers at all.
And the entire planet is suburbs, I guess.
Yeah. It's just, the whole thing is very weird. And I've seen a couple of theories about how like maybe this was one of the like Confederate systems or something. That
if they're converting currencies, it would make sense they'd be working with the banking clan. Is that?
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things. The thing is that like when Undersecretary Karen gives her talk, she talks about strengthening the New Republic. So they're clearly doing work for the New Republic, but they don't interface, seemingly at all. So I'm not
very
really
strange.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there. But we open on them like all freaking the fuck out, and someone presses a button
and they drop out of hyperspace.
They are ripped out of hyperspace, and they're lucky that they survived that, because that is insanely dangerous. And just when they have enough time to catch their breath, the dead droid starts like clambering onto the bridge.
Like they hear some clanking and mechanical sounds. They're like, what the fuck is that? And then this giant fucking droid.
Yes. One eye missing.
With one eye and a peg leg.
Yes.
Just in case you didn't get the hint that this is a pirate droid.
Oh, just wait. His name is SM-33, which is a very unapologetic reference to Smee from Captain Hook, right? Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's fine. Lean into that shit. It's funny as fuck. I don't give a fuck. So he's like, where's the captain? Also, I'm going to kill all of you.
Like, there is no captain. We just showed up here. It's like, no. There's a ship, which means there's
always
a captain.
And Fern's like, wait, I killed him. And he's like, whoosh, no shit.
All right. What are we doing here, Captain?
Yeah. And you can tell Wim was like, God damn it.
Oh, why didn't I think of that? Fuck.
What a great fucking... Poor Wim.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for him. And so SM-33 is like, I pledge my life to you forever, Captain. And she's like, great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, can you get us home?
And he's like,
where is home?
Yeah, what planet are we going to? And she's like, AT-AT. And he's like, I don't know what the fuck that is.
The fuck is an AT-AT?
And he starts like listing off all the A planets he knows. And she's like, no, not any of those. Specifically AT-AT. And he's like,
I don't know.
404?
Yeah.
Not found. Because I like how he does the search. He's clearly a slower droid.
Yeah.
And he's like the Internet Explorer of droids, I think. Mm-hmm. While he's searching his memory banks for AT-AT, a fucking like rat crawls out of his
open eye,
and then jumps onto Neil, who immediately screams like a little girl. Mm-hmm. But later on in the episode, I think they might be buddies.
Yeah. So finally, Fern is like, okay, all right, stop listing off planets. New strategy. We'll get there ourselves. Just tell us how the fuck to fly this thing.
Right, and we'll ask somebody.
And so SM-33 is like, yes, there's this, blah, 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 and that's how you fly the ship.
There are 200 thrusters apparently, and one set of flaps.
And they're like, okay, no, that's not going to work either.
Yep.
And SM-33 is like, well, I could take us to this port I know, and, you can talk to someone there.
It is absolutely kid-friendly.
Yeah, for sure.
There are things not happening there that children should never see.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right,
take us over.
There's a moment where when they're en route, Wim finds the captain's quarters and takes Neil in there, and they have all the pirate hats and the looking glass.
And like there's a bunch of skeletons and things. Like the ship has clearly been here for a while.
Right. And Wim is having the time of his life.
Yes.
Because
he's like, holy shit, we have an actual adventure.
Yes.
I finally escaped suburbia. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah,
and Neil's like, can we actually just go home, please? Like, I feel like I did personally pretty well on that test. Like, I want to have the boring actuarial life or whatever the fuck I'm going to have.
Also, Wim, these are dead bodies.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you? He doesn't seem to be bothered by the dead bodies. So, yeah, they get to
Pirate Town.
Yeah. What is it called in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride?
I don't fucking
Or in the movie, they go to that pirate port or whatever. I can't remember. It's that. Pretty much. It's more or less that. And they start looking around, and these poor, sweet summer children have no idea.
Well, there's a nice touch. So they like just kind of moor the ship, and then a ferry pulls up to take them on.
The ferryman, by the way, same species as one of the characters from one of the Ewok Caravan of Courage movies.
Cool.
Which are now apparently also canon along with the holiday special.
Yeah. So like they get out, and Karen like doesn't speak English, so they can't fucking pay me. Yeah. And they're like, hey, Wim, you're the only one who has money. Fucking pay him.
Yeah, because he has his lunch money.
Yeah. So Wim pulls out one of his
one credit. He hands it to him, and that motherfucker
goes
scurries
fucking
off.
insane with joy. Like, oh my god, I just hit the lottery.
He scurries off in the opposite direction of his job, and you know that he's getting booze. Like that man is going to either get drunk and or high, right? Yeah. Immediately. Like you just
possibly laid, given where this is.
Yes. You just fueled this man's addiction for another 10 years.
So Wim is like, all right, I'm going to stuff the rest of my money into my sock.
Gonna hide it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let's go fucking find someone who can give us directions.
Starport Borgo, by the way. Is
Borgo.
What it's called.
Okay. So like they walk past a strip club, and they're like, hey, maybe we should go in there and ask for directions.
And I like how Fern's like, no, I don't think so. I was on the internet once, and I think I know what this is.
Fern just seems a little bit more streetwise.
A little more worldwide. Yeah. I like how one of the ladies of the night who are kind of hanging out in the doorway
is like, wait a minute, are those kids?
Are those literal fucking children?
What the fuck, dude? Where are your parents?
Yeah. She grabs Fern at one point and asks her about
grabs
the
Fern
same.
and KB. I was like, what the fuck? What are you doing here?
What are you doing
like,
here?
You need to go home right the fuck now. And she's like, okay, tell us how to get to Ad. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Very funny, bitch. Yeah. That's not a real place.
Seriously, like, are you from Coruscant or like Ryloth? Like, where the fuck do you need to go?
They mention at one point, what is that planet in Andor season 1 where they do the sparkly light show in the sky?
Yeah.
A, I think.
Fucking Scotland or Ireland or wherever the fuck it was.
I think it was Scotland. It was just on the tip of my tongue. You vamp for like 3 seconds.
I mean, I don't think it's really that.
Oh,
all right.
Given,
I understand your nerd pride is on the line here.
Well, not that. It's just that it was so close to, like, I almost said it.
Mm-hmm. We're almost there. God bless Wikipedia.
Let's see.
Maybe.
Galactic Empire. Aldani. Yeah.
Okay.
Which, by the way, there are probably people in the comments right now who are like, it's fucking Aldani.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry to disappoint you.
I'm sorry I didn't have an encyclopedic knowledge right at the moment I needed it.
That's what Wikipedia is for, dude.
They mentioned Aldani, though, but one of them says something about it being like a something of Aldani. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure Aldani is just Scotland.
Yeah.
If I remember seeing that episode correctly.
Anyway. So Wim and Neil pull up to this like food stall and like, hey, we can ask directions here.
And also we can fucking eat because this looks delicious.
So they hop up on their stools, and bartender's like, what the fuck do you want? They're like, we'll have what he's having. So bartender pulls out some fucking bowls of noodles for him, and then grabs this like space lobster thing, just cracks it open right on top and pours out its guts on there.
Yeah. And they're both like, ugh.
And Neil's like, no, I don't need any sauce for mine. Oh, okay, you just did it.
All right, okay. He also tries to pay with his credits,
his lunch money, and the guy's like, "Where the fuck did you get this?"
It gets almost the same response as the first time, and everyone is like, "What is a perfectly pristine, like old Republic era credit? What the fuck?
Yeah, what's going on?"
He's
here?
like, "It's just my lunch money, dude. I don't know."
Like, fucking lunch? Are you out of your mind?
He's like, "Well, I'm gonna need the rest of it," and he's like, "Fuck you," and they tip their bowls over and they run off.
Well, first a fist fight breaks out over this credit.
All right, yeah,
because
they're all pirates.
Yeah. And finally, Wim is like, "Okay, we're gonna go now," and tips his bowl onto the fire and jets up, and they start running. And so they're running. They meet up with KB at some point and keep running while the pirates are chasing them. And
there's the prostitute's in there somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Too.
Fucking Fern pulls her gun off of her hip, shoots it straight into the sky, points it at these pirates, and says, "Back the fuck up, bitch."
A couple things about this. First of all, at this point, we meet back up with Wolf Dude, and
that happens a little bit later. Not very much later.
I thought he ends up. Well, maybe it's Space Urkel.
It happens after SM33 has his moment.
Oh, okay. So another detail I like about this is she shoots the blaster into the air, and behind her, I think Wim has to move to the side because something falls from the ceiling. I thought it was a nice little touch.
Yeah.
So yeah, they
and Pirate's like, "Dude, you're like 12. You're not actually going to shoot me."
And just like snatches the gun. He's like,
"Stop it!"
Yeah. She's bad.
Like, okay, I guess he got us.
Yeah.
Can we just go home now?
Yeah, and then a voice from the unknown goes, "Take your fucking hands off my captain." Everyone's like, "Who the fuck is that?"
It's SM33 hobbling up on his peg leg.
Yep.
Little rat crawling out of his empty eye socket and punches the shit out of these pirates.
SM33 does not fuck around.
No.
And he's got his fucking blaster shields on both arms, which heat up when they collect blaster bolts.
And he fucking burns the dude's face.
Right in the dude's face. I like how in one of the moments in this area, the Grand that got his eye shot out is getting a patch on it.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're running through everything, there's a dude that's getting a Hut Cartel tattoo.
Yep.
And they run past him and messes it up and everything. So yeah, SM33 beats the living shit out of everybody, and it's fucking cool. And you're like, you know what, SM33, you're not that bad.
Yeah. So they get back to the ferry. They're gonna try to get back when someone fucking ionizes SM33 and he falls over. They're like, well, shit.
All right, this is where Wolf Guy is.
Yeah. This is Wolf Guy and the rest of the pirates we saw in the beginning of episode 1. And he's like, man, these kids are shitheads.
Yeah.
Throw them in the brig.
This is why I hate children.
Yeah.
This day right here is why I hate children.
So the kids get thrown in the brig. And they're like, okay, things could be worse. They could be a lot better, but they could be worse. So the key to our cell is hanging on that hook out there. But fortunately, Neil managed to hold on to the little rat guy that was in SM33's eye socket.
Yeah, I love how their first plan is just to train the rat to go get the keys, and they
don't train him at all. They just say, hey,
I know,
just go get the key.
But since they're kids, it's like it's the most rational thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we could totally train a rat to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it almost fucking works.
Yeah, which is rat climbs up right next to the key, and they're like, yes, get it and bring it back here. And the rat just fucking chases its tail for it. And they're like, no, it's right there.
Yeah.
Get the key and bring it back. And finally the rat's just like, fuck you, and jumps off and does something.
I don't like you guys anymore. You yell a lot at me for no reason. So they hear a voice coming from the back end of their cell.
It's like, hey, you're going to Ad-Atten, right?
Well, no, he goes, the distance between you and the key is an illusion. And you're like,
I think that's what he says at the very end.
Maybe it's what he says though, and you're like, sit the fuck down, freshman philosophy boy, Jesus.
And who should stagger up out of the darkness but Jude Law?
Jude Law, yeah. Last scene playing Dumbledore in the Fantastic Beasts series.
Yeah. Also played the one bad guy in Captain Marvel.
Yes. What was that guy's name?
I don't remember. It's been too long.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. So yeah, and then he gives him the whole line about the illusion thing, and then
he's like, hey, fucking I'll help you get out of here if you
pulls off his hood.
If you just take me with you, because I'm tired of being in this fucking cell.
Yeah, and they're like, we're not necessarily in the position to negotiate. So
all right, cool.
yeah, you can come with us. And he's like,
just, all right, cool. I'm going to reach out my hand.
Watch this. And he quotes the Force theme and everything.
Like it takes a little bit to get there.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple bars of some other stuff, but it's really cool.
Yeah. And
very nice cello arrangement of the Force theme.
Yes. Jude Law fucking force floats the key. And that's how the episode ends. Yeah. And you're like, all right, that's pretty cool. Well, I don't think that he so if this were like Luke or Obi-Wan, it'd be like whoosh, we're like really fast, right? There would be no like, oh, I need to concentrate, and then we're gonna give a few seconds for the Force theme to come in, and it's gonna gently float to me. I'm thinking that he probably
out of practice a little bit,
or was never really trained. I know that a lot of people think that maybe he was an Order 66 survivor. I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he's just a Force sensitive who was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do pirates.
Could be a fucking Kanan Jarrus thing where he was very, very small.
Like he was really young. Maybe, yeah. He would have to be at this point, I think. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, we didn't mention one thing in episode 2. At some point, there was a scene with Wim's dad running through the forest trying to find the
finds
droids.
The droids, yeah.
Like my kid just fucking took off into the sky. Yeah. Fucking, you got to get him back. And they're like, well, he might have breached the barrier. That's a major fucking offense. We might have to kill him. He's like, I don't care. Just get my kid back.
Yeah, it's my kid. Yeah. What the fuck, dude? All right, so let's. I'm going to read some live questions first, and then I asked for your thoughts in a post this week. Not yours. Everyone else.
Yours.
Yeah. We'll read some of those too. Nate says, sup, Jedi / Chris. I think this guy thinks my name is Jedi, and I'm totally fine with that.
All right.
And then Chris says, may the Force be with you, Daniel and Chris. Hope you're both having a great night. I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew, and so did I.
Yeah, I'm having a good time so far.
I'm into it. It's already my favorite over a couple of other Star Wars shows.
All right, so what did the people have to say?
April, our friend April, says, hey, look, another planet hidden in a super dense Oort cloud. What are the odds? Now, what she's talking about was that in our weekly tabletop RPG series, Gungans and Dragons, season 2, episode 20, which was last week, we discovered a planet that was hidden by an Oort cloud, and they couldn't see stars from the surface, and they didn't think there was a universe out there. Which is a neat little thing.
I'm sure Richard is like writing angry letters to Disney right now. You fucking stole my idea.
Yeah. I literally SharePoint memed when I realized what was going on. Also, I don't think I've ever felt more seen in the first 5 minutes of television series than I did last night. I think this show is for the kids that had tough times when, that either didn't fit in or their family life was weird or something.
Or just grew up in the suburbs.
Yeah. Austin says, definitely something new. Yeah, it definitely felt like a Goonie Star Wars situation, but it was a good watch. Had low expectations going into it. Was pretty surprised on how good it was. Great. Going with low expectations for all of life, and you'll be constantly pleasantly surprised. Your
surprises will be happy ones.
Not watched it. This is so his name is Steep, but I renamed him Esteban like 4 years ago, and I cannot remember even why.
I thought it was the other way around.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know why even, but I was just like, we're going to start calling you Esteban.
All right.
Esteban, if you can remember why I said that, tell me. It says, not watched it. Don't really feel a desire to. Waiting for season 2 of Andor. I mean, season 2 of Andor is going to be fucking killer, but you should watch this. It's good. DJ says, I thought it was a lot of fun. Hold on.
There's more.
There are, yeah. Chris says Super 8 ? I'm really enjoying it so far, which makes sense because Super 8 was a love letter to Steven Spielberg films. Gary Andrew Potter says production looks great, good acting, engaging characters and story. George says with children as the main cast, they're either going to be charming or kind of irritating. Luckily it's the former. I totally agree on that, by the way. Lots of heart and laughs and a pleasingly isolated story.
I like how the 4 kids all kind of have like their own archetype, but like they're also a little bit more than that. Like Neil's the nerd, Wim is the dreamer, KB is like the smart one. Well, I guess smart one and nerd kind of over. Well,
the gadget, the gadget, yeah.
Also kind of like the sidekick to Fern's, kind of bravado, not quite bully, but kind of.
Well, but also some real world realism too. Yeah. She's like we said, she's a little more streetwise.
Mm-hmm. They all have their niches, and they also all kind of reach a little bit outside of them.
Yeah. Chet says definitely a step in a more positive direction. The kids are great. No one is being selfish, wimpy, or anything that detracts from the story. Speaking of story, if there's a gamble in play, it's going to be Jude Law's character and whether he's a Jedi or he's a con artist / pirate. He's clearly a Jedi.
He clearly has something going on.
Unless he's doing a non-Gianni thing from Kenobi where he's like using electromagnets or something. Yeah.
My thought process going into this actually was I'm going to assume Jude Law's character is a con artist until I see him use the Force, and that did not last very long.
Right, yeah.
It's like, oh, the very first scene we see you're using the Force. Okay.
That's a good demonstration of your abilities. Yeah. Steve says, this is the show we're looking for. It has compelling action, a real sense of danger, and the best ensemble of core characters since the OT. Original trilogy. That opening sequence sets a tone that lets you know even this is a show about kids. It's not made exclusively for a child audience. Also, the score is excellent. And Justin says, I'm guessing the lead pirate that found the one credit is for the rest is Jude Law's Jedi. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Larry says, so far it's pretty good. We enjoyed it. Kind of like Stranger Things, but in space. But very much OT Star Wars.
I remember that was what they were aiming for. Well, one of the things they were aiming for was
Stranger Things,
but Star Wars.
Right, yeah. And they've, regardless of what you think about different Star Wars projects, everything recently from shit that you hated to shit that you loved, the one thing they do very well is making it look very Star Wars.
Yes.
Like the universe always looks like it's Star Wars.
Like their fucking school uniforms still look extremely Star Wars.
Yeah. Matthew says, pacing of the story is really good so far. It has the same charm and mystery of the original films with the same sense of average people going on an adventure. I think being able to relate to the main characters was the power of the original films, and this definitely hits the right tone. Wim has the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. He's dissatisfied with his life. He has a chance to take a step into a larger world, and he does. And by the end, he will be a changed person. And it's one of those things where I would fantasize as a child getting on a spaceship and leaving and never coming back,
or just finding a Jedi temple, right?
Yeah, right. And it's like I respond well to those kinds of like stories. Mm-hmm. Rock Peterson. The show itself is great. Good mix of nostalgia and new faces. Episode 2 was too short, and the runtime's a tease because too much. I think what you meant to say, too much of it at the end is credits.
I remember reading somewhere that episode lengths are going to vary a lot. Like the first one was 40 some, and this was like 20 some. I think the next one is another 40 some.
Yeah,
it's kind of the Mandalorian season 1 thing where they have longer episodes and shorter episodes.
They did the same thing in season 2 as well. This will be an enduring gripe for me with these shows, especially Star Wars, because once I get started in an episode, I don't want it to end. And so after 20 minutes, when it ends, you're like, what the fuck, man? Give me more of it.
My balls are blue.
Yeah. And then last comment, David says, the Goonies and Treasure Island, or Treasure Planet, if you will, wink, wink, in Star Wars, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So are we? We do not have time to talk about Dune.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. You should watch it. The only reason it's getting sidelined this week is because of Star Wars.
Can I mention, like, Dune Prophecy is really good. My one gripe, and this is a me problem that I'm fully acknowledging might not be anyone else's problem. I was having a difficult time tracking if we were in the present or in a flashback.
Really?
Just like
they're different casts.
It's probably me because like I was having trouble.
You didn't do very well in House of the Dragon, did you?
No, I didn't. But I was having trouble telling the different casts, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I did. I guess I learned their faces early on because John started watching it because he missed the first 3 episodes because he wasn't around to watch it. And so I watched most of the first episode again, I think last night. And that show is cool. Yeah. And they're cooking some palace intrigue shit that I think by the end we're gonna be like, holy shit.
So like it's nice to know that the Harkonnens and the Atreides have hated each other for 10,000 years.
Dude, I couldn't hold a grudge for 10,000 years. And I hold a grudge like a fucking pro.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Another random show that we're watching as well, unrelated, since we're just talking about random shit. Mm-hmm. The Day of the Jackal.
Okay.
which you might remember, you probably, because you never watch movies, but there was a movie in the 90s called The Jackal starring Bruce Willis and Richard Gere.
Okay.
And it's based on a book character about an assassin.
Oh, is this one of those that you showed me like a trailer for? Because
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't feel like I learned about it until a couple weeks ago.
Anyway, go on.
But it is they've made a series based on the same character, not on the movie, but the book character, played by Eddie Redmayne, who is Newt Scamander in the Fantastic Beasts thing, who is handsome and charming and beautiful, honestly, and is the bad guy in this show, and it is so good. The other main character of the series is the female 007 from the most recent James Bond, the one where they killed Daniel Craig.
Oh, okay.
They launch missiles at him and he explodes.
I mean, if that's what it takes to kill James Bond.
At the end of that movie, they're like, no one can say he survived this because it shows it. Like, he's just blown the fuck apart.
Yeah.
It was also a very heart-wrenchingly beautiful moment too. Because we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
So anyway, that'll be the end. We're not going to do any gaming like tonight. However, when next month, when Star Wars Jedi Power Battles releases, the remake of that, we'll be playing the shit out of that because there's a co-op mode on it. It's very fun. So thanks for joining us. We will see you next Wednesday. We'll talk about Skeleton Crew again. Looking forward to it.
Possibly even Dune.
Yep.
Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.